Thank you.
To the two crazy chicks and global politics, and we've been out for a while. So I want to kick it in really quickly.
Right.
We don't have a lot of time. I want to kick it in starting with the Trump presentation, if you will, to
Yeah.
Congress last night. Um, Personal view, very quickly summarizing it, way too long. Always patting himself on the back for God knows what. His minions applauding every 2 minutes. I can't stand the look of JD Vance anymore. I'm sorry. And Mike Johnson, what a weenie. And then the Dems. What is this with the false lies? I mean, come on, really? Are we in kindergarten? If the Dems had
And
done
they're
their
yelling.
homework, we wouldn't be in this position. Anyway, you know, I'm gonna pass it on to you, Mitra. I just found it too long, too full of boasting about Trump. Thank God they made Elon Musk wear a suit. Um, I just think it was just a hoopla of lies and stupidity, and he didn't even call it the State of the Union. He just called it a message to Congress. Anyway, okay, Beecher, I pass it to you.
So
What
I
did you
have to
think?
tell you, I agree with you. It was way too long. Because when you have something at 9 o'clock, and most people got to put the kids to bed, you're not going to be up from like 9:15 till 11. So it was way too long. Also, I agree with you. I think politically, the Democrat made a huge mistake. I understand the gentleman from Texas had to make a comment, but his behavior was extremely inappropriate. And it reminded me of Marjorie Greene. And she was punished by the Democrats. But in this case, the Democrats came up and said they have a right he has a right to speak up. So I think the Democrats lost a political battle. And I think, this speech, whatever you call it, the speech to the Congress or whatever you want to call it, it's more of a show now for the past 15 years or so. Every president that comes in taps himself on the back. Every president does that. But I
Yeah,
think it went way too long. I
yeah,
think by 10 o'clock, I was going, good Lord. But from an international perspective, the first 20 minutes of that display of political dispute was not a signature of democracy is messy, but it's reaffirmation that United States is a total mess internally. You have tribalization moving here. You have politicization moving here. So I think honestly, from an international perspective, it was a disaster
yeah,
because
I
people are
agree.
looking and saying, for God's sake. I mean, and everyone is to blame. Domestically, I think it did give President Trump what he wanted because of the behavior of the Democrats.
Yeah, and
But
I think
these
it was
things
interesting
are
to
just, yeah,
just
but
if you
you
go back
just,
to the last
yeah,
time he did his presentation, no Democrats did any of that. The most powerful thing was when Nancy Pelosi ripped up his
wrote the
speech.
thing.
And that's all you have to do. You don't have to sit there for 3 hours and belittle him.
Exactly, exactly. You
And
don't have to.
remember, he even said in his speech, you know, I can never do anything that makes the Democrats happy or smile. It's true.
But he did say that. And he got credibility for that because they're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I absolutely agree with you. I apologize. I have something in my throat. I'm getting over a cold. I agree with that. But I think from an internal message, it just reaffirms the tribalization. The Democrats will not sit with the Republicans. The Republicans will not sit with Democrats. I think everyone I spoke to, they were just so sick of it that
Yeah,
people were embarrassed. They're like, this is what our nation has come to.
yeah.
This.
Well, let's try to dissect a few things. I mean, the few things that have been really in the news, of course, is
Right.
A, the tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China.
Absolutely.
B, of course, Zelensky in Ukraine and the quote unquote
Right.
minerals deal. And perhaps C, I mean, it's been very quiet regarding Israel, Gaza, the Arab nations. I mean, in the American press per se. But I'd like
Yeah.
to also talk a little bit about when we talk about Ukraine and Zelensky, how quickly
He
the
turned.
European leaders got together, have a plan, have a strategy. And in this respect, I have to say, Trump has succeeded because they haven't done diddly squat for 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
Don't want
what do
that.
you think? What are your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely correct. It's interesting. Forget about you can argue Trump was rude, Zelensky was rude. It doesn't matter. The damage is done, the vase is broken. So that image of him behaving that way, and the president says, don't tell me what to do in my home, had repercussion beyond Ukraine, in Asia, in Africa, in Middle East, and it depends what side of the political spectrum you're on. But I think that President Trump got what he wanted in that when he first came in, he said, bro, I am sick of coughing up for your money. You need to get your act together. And you know what? He may not have gone it the right way, or he came out intentionally. He got what he wanted. Like you said, Europe came up and said, okay, I'm going to raise my money for military. I'm going to unify to stand up. And the president says, okay, you can do that. I'm not giving you a penny. So he forced the Europeans to do something.
Exactly.
Now, whether Europe will do it, I do not know, because Mr. Zelensky came back and said, okay, I'm going to make that deal with you. But my question was, then why did you even argue with him in the White House? And is it a wise day?
One thing, Mitra, I have to add one
Yes.
thing into that, and that is, I have a feeling, and maybe
Yes.
I'm absolutely wrong. I have a
Yes.
feeling that it is a language thing.
Yes,
Let's be honest. The guy
I
is not
agree.
hugely fluent in English.
I don't
He could have
disagree.
had a translator there.
Yes.
It would have given him time to think of the answer, because when you speak to somebody whose language is not English as a mother tongue, things
Yes.
get lost in translation. And I think that's one of the main
That was his
things that
mistake.
happened.
Yes, I think he should have spoken his own language. I think that's what really exacerbated, because, like my mom speaks English and French, but obviously the dialect is different, understanding is different. So I think that was his mistake. But I also do not believe he should sign that deal, because I think whether you like it or not, the war is already lost, not just politically. The American people are not fighting for it, but the greater international community, but also militarily. You are going to give what little you have to the US for what? To prolong? You're not going to get those back. You're not going to get that 25% land back unless you're willing to lose another 500,000. Okay, so you got that 25% back. But are you going to get back the 500,000 men that you lost? So I understand people may not like this, but I think I always say when you go to war, you have to recognize two things. Don't write a check you're asking cash, and don't bite the hand that feeds you. If I were Mr. Zelensky, and obviously I am not, and he has a different mindset that I do, I will go to Putin directly. I would cut off the middleman, say, you know what, bro, let's work something out. Let's just work something out. Because if you are going to give what little you have to the US, how are you better off? Especially the United States has made it clear, we are not going to go to war with Russia for you. If Biden didn't do it, Trump is not going to do it. And the person after Trump is not going to do it. The American public is not going to send their daughters and sons to die for Ukraine.
Okay,
Let
but
alone UK.
I have to interject because
Let alone Europe. Europe is not going to send their sons and
No,
daughters.
but I have to disagree with you. I think you're totally wrong, especially when you say the war is lost. I find that
Okay.
I find that wrong, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's been 3 years.
That's
Russia
right.
went into Georgia 2 days. Russia went into Belarus 1 day. Russia wanted to go to Ukraine 3 years, and they're still not doing it. 1 million Russians either dead, wounded, or have left Russia. Ukraine is on the borders of Europe. Of course, Russia wants Ukraine. A, because you get 40 million people calling themselves now Russian because their demographics are crap. Number two, you have the breadbasket of Europe. And number three, you can put all your troops on the borders and tell Europe to go F itself. So
Okay.
I
So
think,
I'm going to, yeah.
let me just finish my thought.
Yes, of course.
So I think that, yes, I think the money has to stop here, but there is no way in hell you can say that the war is lost. It's not lost.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, and I'm going to pull you back. Number one, if you're going to include 1 million who have left the country, then I'm going to say Ukraine has lost 8 million, 9 million who have died, got injured, or left the country. So you can't use the numbers. Hold it. Wait a minute, Vicky. It's not false. How many Ukrainians have left to Ukraine?
Women and children. Women and children,
Vicky,
Mitra.
Vicky, it doesn't matter. That means that, first of all, it's not just women and children. 30%. And you're going to say, where'd you get the statistics? One of the reasons Europeans were fed up, they want the Ukrainian home, because almost 1 out of 3, I don't know how you figure out, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3, where are men, are fighting age men. You have 100,000 men walked away. Russia did not lose 1 million men, because
I never
even
said they
the,
lost 1 million. Russia lost 1 million men by leaving Russia, dying.
that's
or being
different. I
wounded.
understand, but Vicky, let me put it this way. Russia is 5 times the size of Ukraine. So let me make something very clear. There is a limit to fighting. So they lost 1 million, Ukraine lost 6 million, right? What are you going to do?
6 million.
Okay, how many? You're including, Vicky, you are including the people who have left. So you have 6 million.
It's totally nonsense, Mitra.
Vicky,
There's no such thing as
according
6
to
million.
our own, I'm taking dead, injured, and left.
Wrong.
According
It's
to
so
our
wrong.
own.
It's so wrong, 6
Vicky,
million.
okay,
Wrong.
how many have left? How many have left?
Women and children have left, and where you are wrong is by saying that the Europeans don't want the Ukrainians. That is absolute nonsense.
Wait a
You have
minute, Vicky.
no idea.
Hold it.
You
Wait
have
a
no
minute,
idea.
Vicky. Wait a minute, Vicky. Hold on. The Europeans have had it.
No,
So
they
that
haven't.
is why who's winning. You can't have
They
politicians.
have not had it. They
Vicky,
have not had
excuse
it.
me. You travel to Germany. I have friends in Italy. I have friends in
I don't
Austria.
care. You
I have
haven't
friends in-
traveled there.
Right.
I don't care.
Exactly.
Go there.
Listen
Go
to me.
there and tell me.
Listen to me. It depends where you go, Vicky.
Go.
So let me make something clear. You have millions. You have at least, you cannot tell me 5-1 is not against Ukraine. You can't tell me that.
Yes,
now, if
I
you're going to
can.
accept that, that's fine.
Yes, I can.
You take that. Okay, fine. You
Yes,
take
I
that.
can.
You're wrong, but you take
I'm
that.
not wrong.
The point is, okay.
I'm not wrong.
The point, you're wrong, but hold on. The
No,
point
I'm
is,
not, but I'll carry on.
Vicky, you got to let me finish. The point is, even we, the United States, agreed. It's far to 5-1. Now, you disagree. I respect that. The point is, you are not going to get those lands back. So where is the limit? Where is the limit? When the president of I think Trump was right. He said, you have no cards left. You have nothing left. And let me make something very clear with the European Union. What the European Union and NATO said was, we'll help you, but you still need the US. That basically means the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom says, I'm going to put manpower, I'm going to put air. He had to back down. When they went to Italy, Italy says, bro, I ain't going to die for you. So they talk a lot of big games, but you know much better than I do. That's just talk. If they were going, you go to United Kingdom right now, you say, hey, you're going to go to war with Russia and you're going to send your sons and daughters. They're going to say, excuse me, F you.
But
My
that's not the
point
discussion,
becomes,
Mitra. That's
it
not the
is a discussion,
we're
Vicky.
talking
You
about.
have
Okay.
to realize when you have lost and pull back and go directly to Mr. Putin and say, let's work something out. You and I said this 2 years ago, make it into Cyprus. Make it into Cyprus.
Okay,
So you need to ask yourself something. Is the support Ukraine because they don't like Putin and these people want revenge from Putin? Or is it because they're really for Ukraine? And you know much better than I do. Europe is not all one. East Europe is different than Western Europe. Northern Europe is different than Southern Europe. So if you are from what would be considered Eastern, even though Poland, Czech Republic, they don't consider themselves that. Nonetheless, if you come from those areas that were under Soviet influence for half a century, they're going to say, let's go to war, let's go to war. But the reality is, no matter what happens, President Trump got what he wanted. He got Europe to take responsibility. He got Europe to say, I'm going to pick up and make alterations in EU and more likely NATO. And that will impact the European nation states' economies. Because there's only so much.
Let me interject now because, so first.
What do you want? I disagree. You and I disagree on Ukraine. I understand.
I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah. But they win, I think.
No, what I want to say is this. And I think that I think you're wrong regarding the support for Ukraine. But the support for Ukraine, i.e., regarding money and regarding, ammunition,
arms and ammunition from planes. Yeah, I understand.
I don't think, except for perhaps the Scandinavian, Baltic countries, and perhaps parts of Eastern Europe, anybody wants to go with war to Russia. Nobody does. And you're absolutely right. France ain't going to war. Italy, they don't even know what that is. And forget the UK. No one's going to Italy against Russia. That is correct. And yes, Trump got what he wanted because he exactly did the thing that he wanted, which is Europe to step up to the plate. Agree.
And he got it.
Okay.
You just have to
let's
move
go
on from
back-
that because, yeah.
Let's go back to the question you asked, and that is, why doesn't Zelensky go straight to Putin?
Yeah.
So,
would it be a good
in
idea?
my opinion, that would be the best thing. You get Putin, Trump, Starmer, Macron, Zelensky, et cetera, around a table, and you hash it out. Because I think what the U.S. did which was a mistake, is start doing the conversations without Ukraine, and then Ukraine did the conversations with America without Europe, and everybody is
It was
doing
just a
everything
mess.
haphazard.
Everybody's a mess.
And I think you're right. I think what the next step should be, because let's be honest, Ukraine definitely needs the U.S. Definitely. And the U.S. sees some advantages. Why not? But I think that if you do not involve Putin, or at least what's his name, Lavrov or whatever,
Russia, just say Russia. Yeah,
you have to all sit at the table together, and that's the only way forward, in my opinion. So in that, I agree with you. Let me take you somewhere else. Let's move on from Ukraine because time is
Thank
short.
God.
Let's talk about, if you don't mind, about the tariffs. Trump has imposed tariffs. Mexico, Canada, China. He spoke about it last night, and today supposedly there's going to be some conversations, deals made. What do you think about all that?
I have to tell you, I think if you look Mr. Trump's history, certainly from 5 years ago and such, if not a little bit more, for the past 8 years or so, he happens to be, like you said so brilliantly to me, he's more of a showman, right? And he says, always look here. So when I look at tariff and I look at Ukraine, I think of two things. Number one, there's something else going on. And I think that something else is in Middle East. He's trying to make arrangement and no one's looking at there. And on the other one, I think he's using it as a tactic. He knows very well that you can't put 25% tariff because every car comes in, it goes like a car that's made in Canada. People do not understand, go back 2-3 times. Target already said, hey, I'm going to raise prices. The president came up for 2 reasons. He won immigration, which is already controlled. It has significantly declined. Even the Democrats admit he won that one. But that means the economy. So he lives by the stock market. So if the stock market is going like this, he knows he has to make an adjustment. So I think it is a ploy, but sometimes it's not such a good idea to use the same ploy all the time. Because people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to call you a ploy and I'm going to call you a bluff. And then you're in trouble, right? So I did read that they're going to go in, and I did read that Canada and Mexico said, let's work something out. And I think I just wonder if Canada and Mexico realize that it's just a showman and they're playing into that on purpose so they can go back home and say, look, we also got that. I think it's a different ballgame now. When it comes to the Western powers, certainly United States, it's a different way of doing things. It's a different way of doing things.
If people know Trump, they know he says a whole bunch of stuff to get people riled up and going crazy.
Absolutely.
And that. And then he brings it down to earth. It's almost as if he loves to watch the reaction of the people because he loves to needle everybody. Now, if you look at the stock market in the last 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, it plummeted. It went really down. And a lot of people have lost a lot of money. Today, it's inching back up again, which means that there's something going on that people think, okay, let's not panic, keep moving.
Right.
The second thing is I wonder and I like in a way the tete-a-tete between Trump and Trudeau, because it's like, you're going to do this to me, bro? I'm going to do this to you.
I'm going to do this to you.
And let's be honest, you're absolutely right about the economy. When Americans got pissed off at Biden because of the price of eggs, etc., and now they see the shit hitting the fan because of the price of everything, that's going to take a toll. I wonder if, like everything else in America, in 2 years, the pendulum will split, and then you'll have Congress being made up of Democrats and this, and people will go back. But, I don't know. But I tell you honestly, I think that he's making several mistakes. The first mistake is I don't believe in the tariffs. I think tariffs hurt everybody. I think that you had a great thing going. We worked the world worked very hard to create a global economy where everybody prospers. So to me, that's a mess. The second thing is the firing of all these people. Yes, I agree. You have to
Yes.
start
Yeah.
thinning things out. But good God, the way you're doing it is just ridiculous. Give it a
It's
give it a
interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand what you're saying. So, for example, also people panic. So, because the president came up and said, Mr. Biden had hired 80,000 agents the last year, if you recall. Remember? I think it was 80,000. So, President Trump yesterday said, we are going to fire half of them. Well, that means you still got 40,000 agents. My accountant was like, you make sure you do your taxes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You still have 40,000 agents. And I think, people tend to over panic. And I say, yes, some things need to go. Come on. Like in the case of USAID, Vicky, you and I both know it's not just an aid. It was also used as a political tool for the coups, for servers. Everybody knew at this stage, thanks to technology, everybody knows what it is. Sort of like Voice of America. For me, I never understood why we still have Voice of America. Because
I love Voice of America.
No, listen, I understand. I understand. It's charming. It's adorable. I love it. But this is not the 1980s and 90s. Because of this, you have so much option now. And because of America's reputation for the past 3 decades, and it's covered in this now, most people either don't listen to Voice America, or the ones who do listen to it are the same people who don't like intended countries. And they have very little exercising power. I would like to know, how much does Voice of America is being costing, and what impact has it had? Because you know much better than I do, that its image is already tinted. It's already been seen.
I disagree.
And it doesn't get much out of it.
No, but Voice of America has, like you said,
I'm just curious.
Voice of America has been there for 1,000,000 years. Let me tell you, my mother used to work for Voice of America way back when.
Voice of America, listen, I love Voice of America.
In the 60s, the 70s, it was
yes,
important.
but the times have changed.
Yeah, but you still,
that's my point.
I think you still need, because look what's happening to the press, Mitra. Look what Trump is doing to the press. He is not even allowing the AP into the discussion.
Right, but the Voice of America,
because they don't change things. But the Voice of America is an example of, for me, people all over the world to be able to listen to something that they're not able to get via their own satellites. Now,
but that's not Voice of America.
Let's be honest. The Voice of America costs nothing. It's a drop of a hat.
Right.
It's nothing.
Okay, but here's the key.
The real things that are costing us tons of money.
But the Voice of America politicization is extremely expensive. Because if you can get Voice of America, then you're going to get Al Jazeera. Then you're going to get First Times. Then you're going to have anything you want. I mean, when they put sanctions in countries like Iran, China, they get access. They just do the VPN and they get whatever they want. So the Voice of America's political power is no longer there. But I like Voice of America. I don't mean it that way. But the damage to its image. So I think you need to reform the system in the case of Voice of America. But that being said, you're firing 5,000 people. You're firing 5,000 people from the VA. Well, the VA is already messed up to begin with. If you're going to cut something, my suggestion would be go to the military. That's your biggest one. You don't need.
He's going to the Pentagon. It's a huge waste. But
it's about time.
Look, we both agree on cuts because it is frivolous. The question for me is how you go about it. In a company, in a corporate world, if you're going to make cuts, you announce the cuts. You offer people early retirement. There's a process. This is no process. And the fact that Musk, who is a bloody South African PayPal dude, what the hell? Sorry.
I get that. No, I understand. I'm not.
Trump?
Is he? No, I understand. But is he an American, Mr. Musk?
No, he's a South African.
Citizen? Yeah, but is he a citizen?
I'm sure he's a citizen, but he's a South African.
That's my point. No, I understand. But you can't listen, I understand. You can't say he's a South African because if he's a citizen, then he's an American.
He is.
Well, that's heritage. You can't use that against it. I understand. I understand what you're saying. But right now, I think my concern becomes... I don't know. My concern is a comment Musk made when, the president wanted to buy $500 billion AI. And Musk said, we just don't got the money. And so I'm wondering if they're cutting all of these things. So I think Trump has support. What I thought it was fascinating, I believe it was CNN I was watching, that most Americans don't have a problem with his cutting. So it has to be cut. But if you want to save money, my suggestion would be go cut the military. And the reason is not that cut the military and make a deal with the military, these people who make the tanks, and they say, listen, you know you're not going to be paying $1,000 for a screwdriver. I'm going to give you $100, but I'm going to charge the government 500. So 400 will go to space program.
Yeah.
And then American people can save another 500. That's the way it is. So part of the money, because you really don't need that. You know, Vicky, much better than I do. We have things that are obsolete either now or 5 years from now. And we are building things that we cannot even protect. I think that if you want to protect this nation militarily, you need to go and completely redraw. We need to shrink, not just in size, but in the equipment that we have. We don't need these massive, ships. We could make it leaner and meaner. We have these great missiles. Great, but make it cheaper. Make it cheaper.
Things are going to be more expensive if we keep the tariffs up. All right.
No,
last point.
I mean, hello. Yes.
Before we end, I want to end with this, and I want to get your thoughts on this. BlackRock, U.S. company BlackRock, just
bought Panama Canal.
Well, no, they bought a whole bunch of ports
in Panama. Yeah.
And they bought them from the Taiwanese, the Hong Kong Chinese multi-zillionaire.
Yes.
What's that all about? That's something interesting to me.
Right. There's a negotiation right there, because Hong Kong didn't have to sell it. Right. That's China didn't have to. So I think China is very smart. You have to understand Chinese and Iranian Asiatic mentality. China already owns, right, or leases so many strategic points that it could lose this one without damaging its thing. China also deals with nations, which is Iran, which is Russia, which is whether internet or entities, in this case the Houthis, that have influence in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. So if it means you're going to give up this little thing, but you make a deal with US under the table on the side, it's absolutely worth it.
So this is what I was thinking as well, because to me, it was just a little too easy. So
yes, of course.
Trump talked about the Panama Canal, getting it back, saving 15 or 20 hours or 20 days or whatever it is to ship your goods around South America, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Suddenly, BlackRock buys all these ports from the Chinese. So I'm wondering, and I guess we're going to watch this.
Of course.
I'm wondering what deal was made, because that to me is fascinating. Anyway, we have to end.
Right. Let me put it.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, you're absolutely correct. I think, and let me make something very clear. And that's the point people do not understand when it comes to foreign policy and strategic of Asiatic, be Iran, with Russia, with China. They see all of this as a sign of weakness, but it's a sign of strength, because you know when to negotiate. And you have so many other things. Let them have, because you know why? 44 to 48% of American goods comes through Panama Canal.
Right.
And in a way, America already owns Panama Canal anyways, indirectly. You know what I'm saying? You're not really giving up anything. The question is, what did China get? Now, once again, if there is a conflict in Middle East, I will give it 1 week before Russia, China goes circling Taiwan. So I think it was some kind of negotiation, and the fact that the press is not covering it, and the fact that the press is not even covering the Middle East tells you something.
Right. I agree.
It tells you something.
I agree.
It tells you something.
Because when things are quiet, that's when it's always the loudest. I agree.
I'm just wondering, especially when the comment made by the Russian president 2 days ago, in which he said to President Trump that, you know what, you need to sit down with Iran and work it out. And I could be the middleman. And people tend to forget it was Putin that worked with Hamas, trained Hamas for the October 7th, because Mr. Putin never forgave Netanyahu for what he did, whether it was in Syria or whether it was in Ukraine. So I'm just wondering if all three are interconnected, the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, the Panama Canal, the US, maybe, because if I do not know, but obviously China gave this, but it must have gotten something. And the
Right.
fact that it's not covered, you can't ignore. You
No.
can't ignore.
But watch that space. All right. See you next
Yeah.
week.
See you
Bye.
next week. Take care.
Waiting for the